Hey, I'm Oli Herbert from All That Remains. And in this Rock House program, I'm going to be showing you some techniques that involve rhythm and lead playing. And I'll also show you how I compose songs and various ways I do that, including chord progressions. And I'll show you how to create arpeggios, some sweeping techniques. And you can get a lot of great support on the website. It's all for free. Just go to rockhouse.com. And remember, stay metal. All right, let's get in tune. Now, we tune to C-sharp standard, which means that all the strings will be tuned down 1.5 steps below normal. And I'll give you the names of the notes. They are C-sharp, F-sharp, B, E, G-sharp, and C-sharp again. Now in this program, anything that I reference is going to be as if it was an A440 standard tuning. So this note here, I will always call an E, even though technically it is a C-sharp. So just be aware of that. And now I'm going to give you each string twice, starting from the bottom one. Okay, so the most accurate way to tune is with an electronic tuner, and if you don't have one, you can go right to the website, and they have a downloadable tuner online, and get yourself in tune. All right, this is a metronome. This is your best friend. Use it. Basically what a metronome is, it makes a nice loud clicking noise, like that, and it keeps steady time. Better than you can because you're a human, it's not. What we're going to be doing throughout this entire program is utilizing the metronome as well as various click tracks. Shut up. And I'm going to show you how to utilize the metronome properly, and it's going to be the greatest tool that you ever find. So the first thing I want to show you is how to play on the click of a metronome. Seems obvious, but here it is. If I have it going, let's say at 120, I'm just going to play some single notes, and I'm going to play every note to that click. Now if you notice, all my notes were even. They were in time with the metronome. And I held each note out till the completion of the next one. So this will train you to be a very fluid, even player and stay in time. Now granted, if we keep cranking up the metronome to say 208, and we start playing quarter notes, you say, okay, that's as fast as it goes. People play music a lot faster than that. Well, what we have to do then is do what's called subdividing. And what that is playing different rhythms over the click. So we have to learn how to play eighth notes, which is playing 2 notes per click. We have to learn how to play triplets, which is going to be 3 notes. And we have to learn how to play sixteenths, which are 4 notes per click. So I'm going to demonstrate for you now how to play 8 notes. And we're going to go back to our 120 setting. And I'll use that same exercise I was doing. So here again are quarters on the click. And now 8 notes. Okay, we'll leave that going. Now we're going to do triplets, and we're going to be playing 3 per click, and we're going to play that just on the high E string to start with. Now apply to our exercise. And finally, 16th notes. 4 notes per click. So once again on the high E string. And when you count 16th notes, count 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So it'd be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And we'll get into various other rhythmic groupings throughout the program, but for right now, that's all you need to know, and use it. Now, if you don't have a physical metronome, there's one on the website that you can download, and that can be your best friend too. So I'm going to hand it over to my friend here, and we'll continue with the program. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to do the E minor chord scale, and we're going to use very simple shapes for that. And I'm going to show you the notes first, and then we're going to apply them to the shapes. So the notes are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E again. And for each note, we're going to play the interval of a fifth, except for the second one here, which we're going to play interval of a sixth. So I'm going to do each one now with the chords. And now I'm going to do it at a tempo, and I'm going to let each note just ring for 4 counts. And now I'm going to do it in reverse. Okay, so all of these chords in the E minor chord scale can be used together to form various progressions. I use these in a lot of my songs, and you can too, so have fun with this one. All right, let's talk a little bit more about some chords and some inversions, and these are going to be a little bit more advanced, and I use these quite a bit in my songs. And we're going to start right off with the E sus2 chord. I'm going to show you a couple variations. So the chord looks like this. It's got a very cool kind of modern sound to it. I'm going to show you a couple ways to play this now. Here you're just using the 3 notes that you need. And now the same idea here, except we are skipping the D string. We're going to mute it. and play the B and the F sharp with these two fingers. Okay, staying with E, we're going to play now another chord that uses muted strings, and it's an E minor 7. Now, when you play an E minor 7, if you're in clean tone, you might play it like this. And distorted, you know, doesn't sound very good. So we take off the D string, we mute it, and we play only the E, the D, and the G, no fifth. So it holds its own with distortion. Okay? Now the next one we're going to do is going to be a variation on the B minor chord. And again, you probably know this B minor here. But what we're going to do is we're going to play in inversion with D in the bass. And once again, just like the E sus2 we just did, B and F sharp with these two fingers. So you could actually go between the two chords. That's a pretty cool exercise, and sounds good. Okay, now the next one is going to be a C major 7th. And once again, standard C major 7th chord would look like this. And what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of the third here and replacing it with another octave. And this chord typically would be picked apart more. But it's a really cool sound. Finally, let's talk about how we convert major triads into 3-note chords just using the root, the third, and the octave instead of the fifth. Like for instance, if I play C, E, and G, again, it doesn't sound that good. So if we use the octave instead, it's a little more passable. And this shape will work for any major chord. So this would be C, D would be up 2 frets, E. Now if I want to make it a minor chord, I start with the minor third interval, and the octave's the same. So root, minor third, octave. And let's do a little bit of our chord scale using these shapes. I'm just going to use E, D, and C. So E minor, D major, and C major. Now let's play with this a little bit, see what it sounds like. So it sounds pretty big, holds its own with one guitar, and work on those chords and see what happens. Okay, next up we're going to talk about the muting technique with the right hand. And this is a great way to get a heavy tone, and it's used in all of metal and quite a bit of rock as well. And let's look at how to do it. First off, I'm going to put my right hand, the knife part of it, where the string and the bridge meet. Just going to rest it there. And I'm going to hit the low E string, and I'm going to play like an E power chord. Now you notice I got a little bit of extra noise in there. So with my left hand, I'm going to put my pinky on the top strings to get rid of that noise. And let's hear how that sounds now. And that's going to be much cleaner. Now, what you don't want to do when you're muting is have your hand somewhere in the middle of the bridge, because it's going to sound like this. So basically sounds like nothing. So again, make sure you're where the bridge and the string meet. And the other thing that you want to look at is the angle of the pick. If the pick is coming straight ahead, you get more of a dull tone, kind of like this. And if you angle the pick downward like that, it's a sharper attack. And as I play a little bit faster, you're going to hear the difference a little bit better. So here it is a little bit quicker, flat, and angled. So it's a subtle difference, but I know it's there, so it sounds better to me to have the pick more angled. Okay, now we're going to do the intro rhythm for the song Chiron off the album Overcome. And in this intro rhythm, there are only 4 basic chords, and they are E, B, A, and B, D sharp. And to start off with, I'm just going to play the chords in order, just using whole notes, and then I'll put the rhythm in a little bit. So here are the chords in the correct order. And now we'll try it with a backing track, and I'll show you how the rhythm goes with the backing track. Now we're going to be talking about how to get some faster rhythms with our right hand, and namely 16th notes. And we're also going to be doing a couple of galloping patterns as well. And basically what you need to be able to do is to alternate pick, and we're going to pick the bottom string and we're going to mute it just consistently back and forth, down and up like this. And as I mentioned before, make sure that you're exaggerating the motion at a slow tempo to get the tone that you want. Because as I get faster, that motion will get smaller, but you'll still have the same tone that you had when you were playing it slower. So I'll show you that going slowly and then gradually getting faster. And you notice that when I went from slow to fast and then fast to slow, the hand motion became smaller and then wider again. So just like with the down picking. All right, now we're going to do what's called a gallop. And this is just taking an 8th note and 2 16th notes. And it almost sounds like, you know, you're playing, riding on a horse or something like that. It's like this. So it's down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Here it is slow. Here it is a little bit quicker. And next thing we're going to do is the reverse gallop, which is 2 16ths followed by an 8th note. And this is very, very common, especially in our music. And here it is really slow. And the picking for this is down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And here it is a little bit faster. And right now I'm just playing on 1 string, but if you would like to, you can try these patterns on multiple strings, maybe 2. They get much more difficult, but the tone will change. So here is the straight 16th played on 2 strings. The reverse gallop played on 2 strings. And the regular gallop played on 2 strings. And they all sound pretty heavy played with that E power chord. All right, now we're going to try these 3 rhythms, and we're going to do them all at 1 tempo so you can see how they can all flow together, and pay attention to the hand and watch how the motion basically never stops. Even if I'm not picking, when I do the upstroke, it's just to get back down, back up to the downstroke again. And let's do it up the tempo. Now with 2 strings. And that time I did not go back to the original 16th note pattern, I just stayed on the reverse gallop. So work with those and have fun. Okay, now I'm going to show you the intro riff for the song This Calling off the album Fall of Ideals. And we're going to break this up into the basic chords and intervals and also the rhythm. So first off, I'm going to show you the basic chords. And they are as follows. E, E, C, E, A, down to our third. And you notice when I went down to C, we've done the third shape, but now we're doing what's called an augmented fourth between the C and the F sharp. Very dissonant. So I'm going to play them really slowly with the rhythm now, and pay attention to the right hand 16th notes and the reverse gallop pattern that will follow. So here it is, really slow with the chords. Now we're going to do it up to tempo with the click track. All right, let's do some scales. Now, you should know what a scale is at this point, but if you don't, all it is just taking the notes and playing them individually, either ascending or descending. And we're going to talk about a couple different kinds of scales. The first one's going to be what's called the pentatonic. Penta meaning 5, tonic meaning tone. And it's the most basic scale that you could ever learn, but it's also very important. So we're going to do it from A. Here's the A minor pentatonic. you noticed everything was 2 notes per string, and the notes themselves are A, C, D, E, and then G. Then those notes repeat at the octave. A, C, D, E, and G. And lo and behold, another octave, A, and then C. So here it is with a click track. Now I'll play the same tempo using 8 notes, so I'm going to play twice as fast. All right, so that was just one pattern, the minor pentatonic. There are 5 of these patterns, and you can learn all of these on the support site if you wish to delve further into the world of pentatonics. But I'm just going to show you this one for right now, and hopefully you learn them. All right, next up we're going to do the pivoting lead lick from Chiron, and it's the part in the bridge. And it's really cool. It's not that hard to play. Basically, when we're pivoting, what we're doing is we're bouncing off a note, just like we did with the rhythm stuff, where we're going. And in this case, we're going to be bouncing off a B and going right down the scale like this. So B will be our pivot, and then we're going to go up to C. And then finally B here. And this time we're going to skip a string. So I just showed you the general thing that I'm doing, but now I'm going to break it down and show you each part. Okay, so the first section right here, B is our pivot point, and we're going to use downstrokes for the whole thing. And here it is. Okay, so the only thing you want to watch out for here is the fingering. You notice that I use all my fingers, especially in the second part where I'm stretching across. It's not that bad because we're up high in the fretboard, but this makes it so the hand doesn't really have to leave position, especially for that second part. So if you practice that, you'll be okay. If you try to do it with a different fingering, it works too, but I find it's more awkward, rather than just staying right there. Okay, now I'm going to play this one up the tempo. Okay, now I just showed you how to play a pentatonic scale, an A minor pentatonic scale across the fretboard. What we're going to do now is examine just the first 4 notes of the pattern. And the notes are A, C, D, and E, leaving out the 5th one. What I want you to look at is the actual shape of what I'm doing. 1, 4, 1, 3. And this pattern is going to repeat at every different octave, all 3 octaves. So we go up to the next octave A. We should have the same 4 notes, the same fingering. And there they are. Now we go up to the 3rd octave A. And remember, when you find your 3rd octave, instead of going over 2 strings and up 2 frets, it's over 2 strings and up 3 frets. And here's the same shape. And So now I'm going to play across all 3 octaves at a slow tempo. And now in reverse. So what this is doing is enabling you to play across your fretboard in a diagonal fashion without really thinking about the entire box shape that you're doing, but just that one little 4-note shape. Now what we're going to do is we're going to learn a second 4-note shape, and we're going to combine it with this first one, and it's going to give us quite a wide berth of what we're doing. So let's look at the middle part of the pentatonic scale, the original one that we learned. Right here from the D string, we had 1, 3, 1, 3. Probably the simplest pattern within the pentatonic. Now we're in the middle octave right now, so what we need to do is find the lower octave and the higher octave. So let's take this, the note G, go down an octave, and there's G again. So the same pattern should apply. 1, 3, 1, 3. And now the third octave. Remember, here's your G. Octave G. Now all 3 of them together. All right, now the real fun begins. We're going to put both of these patterns together so we get all 5 notes, but just using 2 different 4-note patterns. So again, I'm going to play this slow. Starting on G. Now we're going to shift up to the original pattern. Now we're right in position here for the next G pattern. Shift. Watch out here, 1 fret shift, G. Now I'm going to play this exercise at a slow tempo. Now you notice that I'm covering almost 3 octaves worth of fretboard here, just with those 2 shapes, and I'm getting all 5 notes. So as you get familiar with connecting these 2 shapes, you can try different ways to get in between them. Like for instance, you don't always have to return to the bottom pattern. You could slide up here. And you'll notice that most players who play a lot of lead playing, this is the approach that they take, because it makes a lot more sense in the fretboard to think of little small things in many different places than to think of one big block pattern all the time. So I'm going to play the same exercise now, at this time up the tempo. And you also notice too, alternate picking the entire time, and you want to make sure that you're accenting the notes nicely. You don't want to sound like, you want to be very strong. In this case, I'm accenting each of the first 4 notes. And it sounds way cooler than playing everything always the same. So if you get used to doing that slow, it will translate better when you do it faster. So what we're going to do now is apply the muting technique to the E minor chord scale. And we're going to play each chord for a period of 4 measures. And I'm going to mute just 4 times in each chord, going to the next chord, and so on. And now we're going to do that in tempo. All right, now at the same tempo, we're going to play 8th notes instead of quarter notes. So I'm going to be playing each one 8 times, so it's going to be twice as fast, all downstrokes. So here it is in tempo. Now, another way to do a muting technique is to work on muting and then unmuting. And what I mean by that is we're going to mute the bottom string, then we're going to play the A string of the power chord unmuted. So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth like so. And what I'd like to do is that technique for the entire chord scale once again. So it will look something like this. And now I'll do it up the tempo. Okay, now we're going to apply the same exact technique to a little bit different pattern. And what we're going to do is take the A string and climb up the scale. We're climbing up the G scale. It's going B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G. And then we'll do that in reverse order as well. So it will look something like this. And here it is up the tempo. Now, if you really want to challenge yourself, we're at a tempo of 120 right now, and you can just increase the tempo until your hands are burning and you can't do it anymore. And it'll help your endurance out and help you develop your technique even further. Okay, I was just playing muted string chords, and I was picking across the strings, and got a nice clean sound by arpeggiating the notes and not letting them bleed together like this. And I'm going to show you how I use that approach within this particular riff right here. And the first thing we need to be able to do is to form the chord. So we'll play it one note at a time. We're not going to mute anything at first. And then back, we're going to use all upstrokes. So it's going to be 3 down and 3 up. Down, 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 and then up, up, and up once again. Okay, now to make this sound really cool, we're going to mute the first 3 notes with the downstrokes. Make sure your hand adjusts to the string that you're on, this part of the hand here. And on the way back, we're going to play everything unmuted like this. So all together, it's going to be muted, unmuted. And now the second part of this part is a different chord, and the 3rd finger is now going to be on the 7th fret, like so. So get used to that shape. And it's going to be the same exact picking technique. 3 down, muted, and 3 up, unmuted, but distinct. So make sure your hands lift a little bit. Now put that together at a slow tempo. And here it is up the tempo. And the next part of this is we're going to play these same chords, but this time we're going to let the notes ring coming back up. So it's a slight variation. So the same muted notes for the first 3. And this time, let that chord ring through. And the same thing with the second chord. And here it is up the tempo with the chords ringing together. Okay, if you're having any trouble following along, don't forget to use the tab, and good luck. All right, this is one of my favorite riffs on the album Overcome. It's from the song Relinquish. It's the main riff and the verse, and it's got some cool stuff. It modulates, it has some chords in there, it has some picking across strings, and you'll recognize the exercise from before. And check it out at a slow tempo. And here it is up the tempo. All right, let's talk about intervals a little bit. What an interval is the space between notes. And say if we start with the note E, 7th fret A string, and we were to go up 1/2 step or 1 fret, we go to F. That's the interval of a minor second, and I'm going to play that across 2 strings so you can hear what that sounds like. Now there are various intervals, and I'm going to go through each one of them. And we're going to start with the most used ones first, and then we're going to kind of go right in order from there. So let's go to the chord scale that we just did, and let's look at what that interval actually is. If I just start on the top note E and I go to B, it's what's known as a perfect fifth. It's a very pleasing sound. It sounds great on distortion, and you'll see it all the time. Now if I go up a string and use the same fret, I have what's called an octave. Now what an octave is the same note that you just played, in this case E, up in the next higher register. So it's very important to be able to identify octaves. Probably the most important interval to identify, because you're going to be later on looking across different octaves to determine where you are on the fretboard. So our fifth and our octave. And the next most common is the perfect fourth, which is the same fret on the next string, which would be A in this case. So now I'm going to put those 3 perfect intervals together, and let's see what they sound like. So starting with the fifth, the octave, and the fourth. They'll have kind of a nice, pleasant, non-confrontational sound to them. Okay, now we're going to go right in order, starting with the smallest interval going to the largest. And we'll start with the minor second, which I've already discussed, E to F. Pretty abrasive. Now we go up to the next interval, which is a major second, which is E to F sharp, 2 frets. Sounds kind of like chopsticks. Next up is the minor third. If you go up 3 frets, E to G, across 2 strings. Next up is the major third. If you go up 4 frets, you have E to G sharp. And across 2 strings looks like this. Okay, now if we go up an additional half step, we have the perfect fourth, which we've already discussed, which is E to A. Okay, moving on, we have E to A sharp. And we have what's known as the augmented fourth. And augment means to make bigger or raise. And it's a fourth that's augmented. It means it's a wider interval. And it's got a very dissonant sound. They call this one the devil's tritone, actually. Next up, we have a familiar interval, the perfect fifth, E to B. Half step higher than that, E to C. That's known as a minor sixth. And that sounds pretty cool, especially going between that and the fifth. Next up, half step higher, we have a major sixth, which are the notes E to C sharp. Half step higher than that, we have a minor seventh, and the notes here are E to D, and I'll show you a couple ways to play this. And if you want a way to play it that sounds a little bit better, skip a string and go right to the G string on the same fret, on the 7th fret. And make sure you're muting the D string. And the next one is going to be a major 7th. So we had our D right here. E to D sharp. And once again, familiar interval of an octave. Just E to E. Now, if we keep going a little bit more, we have the notes repeated. We had E to F earlier, which is a minor second. Now we're going to play E to F, with F displaced by one octave. That's very dissonant sounding. It's a minor ninth. And finally, E to F sharp. We already played down the octave as a major second, but by displacing it up an additional octave, we have a major ninth. And that one sounds pretty cool. And these are all the intervals that you should be learning first off, and good luck on those. All right, what you just heard there was the chorus for Relinquish, and it's all downpicked, and there are some intervals that you should be familiar with, and I'm just going to go through each one, and then we're going to play it with the backing track. All right, so I started off with a minor sixth from B, fourth, major sixth from C, back down to B, fifth, and the second part, I want you to watch out for the sliding chords. Make sure you use your first and fourth fingers because it helps when you're sliding fast power chords like that, and especially when you're not picking them. You want to make sure that the tempo is very consistent. You don't want it to sound sloppy, almost like if you were to pick it. And the second part of that, we do the same technique on the A string. So it looks like this. And don't forget the chug between each one. I'll play that second part now a little slow. And the second time. And here it is at a moderate pace, whole riff. And here it is with the backing track. We're going to be doing the verse riff for Chiron now, and we're going to discuss the techniques involved. This is pedaling as a rhythmic technique. And basically what pedaling is when you're bouncing back and forth between one note consistently and playing a bunch of other ones. So, for instance, the E string in this case was the pedaled tone, and the movable line was the non-pedaled tone. So let's take a look at this riff, and we'll see the example of pedaling right in the riff. So here it is broken down. Okay, so you notice that in the first half of that riff, I was bouncing between the E and the A strings. And then the A and the D strings for the second part. This note here was holding down the root, and I was playing part of the scale up here on the D string. So we're going to do this one at a moderate tempo now and see how it sounds. And now let's do it at a tempo with the backing track. All right, we're going to do the pedaling technique as it applies in the song 2 Weeks. And I'm going to break it down for you. Watch out for the right hand picking. It gets pretty intense. All right, so you noticed here that I was bouncing mainly between the E and the A strings, playing 2 and then 1. And when I wasn't doing the 8th notes, I was playing the reverse gallop. So this one, you really got to keep on focus with the timing and get your right hand up to speed. So we're going to do it at a moderate tempo now so you can see it more in rhythm. And here it is with the backing track up the tempo. Okay, now let's do some diatonic scales. What is a diatonic scale? Well, it's your basic 7-note scale. Dia means note to note, tonic means tone. So the A minor scale, which one we're going to do, is going to be 7 notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's like the pentatonic that we just did. Except now we're filling in the 2nd note, which is B, and also the 6th note, which is F. And we're just going to do this up 1 octave. So the notes are A, B, C, you guessed it, D, E, F, G, and then A again. So that scale is very cool for rock, metal. It's got a dark quality to it, so you're going to need to know it. Okay, now I can show you all the modes in every key if you'd like, but I'm not going to do that because you can find that all on the site, and everything is there along with a plethora of other information. But what we are going to do is show an approach to diatonic scales that helps you just focus on one pattern or two patterns, like with the pentatonic, and it will get you playing up a fretboard quickly, only knowing just a little bit. So I think this is really helpful. So let's go to our A minor scale that we just did, and just take the first 6 notes of it. You notice the shape, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Well, just like before, we'll go up our octave. There it is again. Again, octave A. A third time. All together. Make sure when you play the G string, don't hit the D string instead like I did, because, you know, it doesn't sound as good. But now what we're going to do is look at what we have. We have 6 notes. It's a 7-note scale, so to fill in that gap, we're going to do something very similar as we did with the pentatonic. We're going to find another pattern to kind of coincide with it. Now you have the notes A, B, and C here. If you go up 2 frets, these same 2 notes, B and C, get repeated, and we're going to add D to it, so B, C, and D. And on the next string, E, F, and G. So once again, we get a nice, neat little symmetrical pattern, this time the fingering 1, 2, 4. Starting at B. Now we're going to sequence this across 3 octaves the same way. So here's our first B, our second B, and our third B. Here we go. And then in reverse. Okay, now, like before, we have all 7 tones that we need. So we're going to sequence each one. We're going to play the first 6 notes. Slide up to the next position and play these 6 notes. And then we're right where we need to be. Small position shift like before. So now I'm going to do this at a moderate tempo. Okay, I also want to stress, when you're playing at a slow tempo like this, let your notes ring out for as long as possible before playing the next one. That actually takes a lot more practice than you might think. You don't want to have your notes being, meaning that your fingering is coming too early or you're picking too early. You want to make sure everything is in sync. So practicing at slow tempos is very, very important to do for long periods of time before advancing to the next tempo. So now I'm going to do the same thing at double the tempo. Okay, now we're going to add one more pattern to this because it's another symmetrical pattern, and it gets you even higher up on the fretboard. So we left off, we had A, B, and C, B, C, and D. Now pay attention to these two fingers here because we're going to replicate those two notes. We're going to play C, D, and there's E. And it's the same pattern across two strings, once again. And once again, C, octave C, and the third octave C. So here's that. All right, now we put this all together, we have 3 full octaves of this exercise. And when you play the last part of the first area here, we're actually going to repeat the note A, so don't get freaked out by that. So let's do this at a moderate tempo. And what I also like about this exercise is the fact that on the way up, we're using outside picking. And on the way back down, it's all inside picking. So we get both areas of picking covered right there. So now I'm going to play this up to tempo. So have fun with that, and you continue to learn all your other shapes as well. The others are more asymmetrical, but this will kind of get you playing across 3 octaves right away. So rock on and have a good time with that one. All right, let's get to a complete lead now. We're going to do the song Undone. And we're going to do the solo for that, and I'm going to break it up for you into slow sections, and then we're going to do it all to the backing track. So here it is, really slow. First section. So pay attention to when the triplets kick in after the main theme there, and you'll be okay. Next section is going to be kind of a 6-note pattern that we discussed, and here it is, really slow. Except use that note instead. Now I want to make note here when you're doing this climb, don't try to do a regular position shift. What you want to do is actually slide into the note. Creates kind of a cool, smooth sound, and It's pretty cool. Okay, next section. This one here utilizes some momentum building by using sextuplets into septuplets, and it goes like this. So again, there's 6 starting from here, from the G. And then 7. So you get this cool kind of gradual increase in tempo. Okay, now we get to a couple of sweep arpeggios, all played in triplet fashion. We'll start off here with the C. Going to a D, a couple different inversions of that. And again, watch the shifts. And then here, we're going into arpeggio. I think I probably got from Frank Gambale. It's a G major 9. Watch out for the pinky slide. And that slide is just slid. You don't want to try to pick that. And then from here, we finish it off almost like a variation on an E minor. So I'll do that whole arpeggio section now, starting from C again. And then we finish it off with a melodic bending lick. So that last part, you let the left hand do all the work. You're not going. So that's kind of square. You want to be able to go all with the left hand. All right, so now we're going to do this solo with the backing track up the tempo. Okay, now we're going to try some single note harmonies within riffs. And this is a song called Forever in Your Hands, and it's the main part, and it's in the key of A minor. And here it is broken down. Okay, so now I'm going to play this up the tempo with the backing track. Okay, now we're going to do the harmony of that section, and we're going to look at the original chords. And basically, each of those notes there in the chord is going to be harmonized by a third. So the E becomes a G, the B becomes a D, and the C becomes an E. So we get this chord here. Then the next chord, same thing happens. We get that shape. Next chord. And there's a fourth in here as well. Then finally, now the second part of this harmony features a bit of a melody that is divergent from it. And then towards the very end, it locks up with a harmony again. Again, up a third. So here's the whole part played slowly, the harmony. So we have some melodic notes in there as well that kind of form their own little mini theme outside of the harmony, and make sure that you have a little bit of vibrato in there. You don't want them to sound too flat. So now I'm going to play this up the tempo with the original track so you can hear all the harmony. All right, now we're going to do the complete solo for the song 2 Weeks. And this solo kind of has two completely distinct sections. And the first one is kind of a soulful, bendy type of solo. And the second one is a muted triplet solo. It's got kind of a cool scale grouping and a pivot lick in it. So let's take a look at both sections played slowly. So we'll start right away with a unison bend. And watch out for your tuning. You don't want to go, because people will throw stuff at you if you do that. So make sure you intonate that bend. And when you hit up there, you add a little vibrato for flavor. Now we're going to do a little bit of a rake lick. It's kind of like a sweep, but different. All we're doing is we're kind of accentuating into this top note. And you can form this chord if you like, and just start off with an up pick. And it's kind of played in a fast triplet fashion. And when you do that, I'm actually letting these notes kind of come through. And this kind of a, I don't want to say sloppy way, but it's more loose than usual. So I'll put that whole first part together. And then we go to a little bit of a lick here. Some pentatonics. And here you're going to pick these very staccato. And bend up a step and a half. And do a trill at the end. So I'll put that whole first section together slow. Now if you hear that, stop, try it again because it's not in tune. And there's your trill. Okay, Now the second part of this lead, as I said, is completely divergent than the first, and it starts down here on E. And check out the picking pattern. It's going to be all muted and a sequence of 6. And then we slide up to E again. In position. So that lick looks like this. And then from here, we're going to actually slide with the pinky down 2 frets. And we're going to finish off the lead with this pedal lick. It looks something like this. I'll do that one more time. From here, slide down. And I'm exaggerating the muting on this B string right now, but when you actually do it, it'll sound a little bit cleaner. But I just want to make sure that you get your palm in there and get a nice sound out of that. Okay, so let's try this whole lead up to tempo. All right, let's talk a little bit about sweeping arpeggios and the technique involved. And it's very popular these days, probably a little bit overused, but they're still really useful, and I use them too. And we're going to start you off with a 3-string shape. And we're going to start way up here on B minor. And first I'll show you the shape, then we'll talk about the picking and the technique. So pretty straightforward. 19, 14, 15, 16. All 4 fingers come into play. B minor triad. Now the picking that I use an up pick, a pull off, an up pick, and then 3 consecutive downstrokes. And then I repeat the pattern. So it looks a little bit like this, played consistently. Now make sure when you're sweeping, you're not trying to do this. Picking the notes individually. You want the hand to just fall through the strings, because sweeping is a one-motion type thing. So if I were to pick it individually, it would sound like this. Which is cool, slow. It's very accented, but it won't get you any speed. And you also want to make sure that you're articulating each note in the left hand. You don't want to play a chord, because then you get that sound and it sounds pretty messy. So get in the habit of lifting each finger up just a little bit above the string. All right. Now that we've talked a little bit about 3-string arpeggios, let's go on to 5-string arpeggios. And we're going to do another B minor shape, starting again with the pinky. And this is very similar. We're going to start with an up pick, pull off, and now 3 consecutive upstrokes. And then we're going to do 5 consecutive downstrokes. So it's just the same technique advanced to 5 strings. So this is what it looks like consistently. All right, so let's take a look at the song, A Song for the Hopeless, and let's look at how I apply these 3 and 5 string shapes to that solo. So all we had here was a B minor 5 string shape, A major 5 string shape, and then an inversion of that A major. And when I get to the top string, let the left hand do the work. Don't worry about picking each individual note. And so there's your introduction to sweeping, and there it is within that solo. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about sweeping now, and I'm going to use the weak-willed solo as an example because the whole thing is just 4.5 seconds of sweep-tastic lickage. And start you off with the first shape here. It's going to be just an F major arpeggio. And we're going to hammer on the first note. And then down pick the next 4. And then up pick the top octave. And that's going to be played in triplet fashion. All right, and then we're going to leave this position, up the neck, and we're going to play an inversion of the F major chord. And instead of going, I have trouble, again, with that rolling technique, so what I do instead is I skip a string, play the C right here, sliding up to C. So those first 2 licks put together a little bit. Okay, now we have the turnaround, and this is just going to be a little scale pattern to get us to the next big arpeggio. Once again. Okay, now we're going to do a B major arpeggio, and it's going to be in a couple different positions. Starting off, then down to our 5-string major arpeggio position, and continuing even further down to the low octave. So that put together sounds like this. And still on B major, we're going to do a different kind of arpeggio. Same kind, but different fingering, rather. We're going to take this fingering here and sequence that up 3 octaves. And you notice I'm just down picking everything using hammer-ons. And finally, we're going to tap the 19th fret, the octave B. And then finally back down and resolve on E. So here it is, played slowly. And here it is with my homemade backing track. right, let's talk a little bit about tapping. And people are probably familiar with your standard finger tapping where you tap the higher arpeggio note, kind of like Eddie Van Halen. And that's cool, and everyone uses it, including myself. But what I want to do is show you a couple solos that really feature tapping as its own technique. And we're going to start off by showing you the solo for Not Alone. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it for you now. And just watch out for the left hand too, because I'm doing some interesting chordal work in this hand. So here it is, really slow. And here it is a bit faster. So that was a cool way to kind of just use an all tapping solo, no picking involved, to create kind of a good tapestry of arpeggiated sounds. And you can use this technique on any chord that you want. So I use this sus2 shape, and I could have went to any note in the scale, in the A minor scale. And you can experiment and have fun, and give that a shot. All right, let's talk a little bit about how to harmonize some basic power chords to create a bigger chordal sound. Now what I'm going to do to illustrate this is I'm going to play a basic C major chord on full distortion. And it sounds pretty terrible because all the frequencies are mashed together, and because of the gain in the amplifier, it just doesn't sound that good. But we want to create all the notes that are in that chord, which are C, E, and G. And we merely have to orchestrate that entire chord for 2 guitars. And that can be done just by playing a basic power chord, in this case for C. And the note that we're missing in this case is the E. So the second guitar player is going to play E and then the octave C, which is a minor sixth. So one person will be playing C power chord, and then the other one. And this technique will work for any power chord that you play in any key. So we're going to apply this now to the E minor chord scale that we did earlier. And I'm going to go through the shapes first before we do the backing track. So over the E chord, all we have to think up is a third. And in the key, it's G. Over the next chord, F sharp D, we're actually in this case just going to play a regular D power chord because we already have the sixth down here, so we're just reversing it. The third chord was a G. Go up 2 notes in the scale. Major third is B. There's your sixth shape on B. Fourth chord was A. Going up 2 notes, minor third to C, and here's your sixth shape. Then you had B, minor third to D, then C, and we already talked about this, the E, then D, Now earlier we did the reverse of this by playing the lower sixth, and now we're going to play the upper sixth. And then finally the octave E. And there's that G major 6 shape again. So here it is with the backing track. So now you can apply this technique, as I said, to any key, any chord you choose, and you'll see this in many of our songs. So have fun and enjoy this one. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some of our scale patterns and we're going to apply them to a larger melodic grouping. In this case, it's going to be a grouping of 6. And what I'd like to do is utilize our A natural minor or Aeolian mode. And I'll show you the pattern, and it'll be pretty easy to remember in a sequence up. So here it is, the first 6 notes. Now we're going to start on the same string, first finger, and do the next 6 notes in the key. Same thing again. Same thing again. And once more. So I'll play this now frontward and backward at a slow tempo. And here it is a little bit faster. And let's try it with triplets too. Okay, so we can use that pattern to basically go across any scale that we want, and it works out really well. What we're going to do now is apply the same technique we just did, except this time incorporate position shifting and only thinking about little 6-note phrases, and we're going to go up all the way 3 octaves in the key of A minor. So I'm going to show you each 6-note sequence one at a time. So the first one you already know by now. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pick up where our 3rd finger is, the E, and play the notes in the key of A minor in this position. It's going to be 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Same thing here. Our 3rd finger was on B, and the pattern is going to be 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Now starting on F, it's going to be 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4 again. Watch out for the position shift on the B string. And finally, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, right up here in the B string. So from A to A to A to A. 3 octave spread. So here it is, slow with the metronome. Eighth notes now. And finally, triplets. And I got a little fancy there and added that chromatic passing tone, but that's the exercise, and you can use that wherever you want, and it's awesome, and it sounds great. Now, I mentioned earlier that there were 4 A's and 3 octaves, and that can be confusing to some people, but all you have to think about is if you have 4 fence posts, what's the space between the posts? It's not 4, it's 3. So our fence posts in this case are A, but we're only traveling up 1 octave, 2 octave, 3 octaves. So that's something just to keep in mind when you're going up and down octaves. All right, now let's get warmed up. There are lots of things you can do to warm yourself up. What I like to do is do a lot of left-hand exercises in one position, namely doing slurs, which are hammer-ons and pull-offs together. And I have a few exercises that really work every combination of fingers in a relatively short amount of time and get you going. And we're going to start off picking these examples, and then we're going to slur them. So the first one is going to be a 2-finger example utilizing every set of 2 fingers that we have and then reversing it. So I'll show you each mini pattern first, and then we'll put it all together. So it goes as follows: 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, and 3, 4. Now I'm going to put that all together really slow. I'm going to pick every note. Now we're going to do the reverse of that exercise, this time starting on 2 and going 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, and 4, 3. And here's that played slowly. All right, now I'm going to put these together forward and backward without stopping. And I'm going to do it at a moderate pace. should sequence this on every string in different positions. I tend to like the 9th position myself. I find it's a very comfortable one to warm up in. But you can just start wherever you're comfortable and then move backwards and forwards on the fretboard to wherever, wherever you're having trouble. All right, I'm going to do this now utilizing slurs, meaning hammer-ons and pull-offs. So you might find this is a little more difficult because the left hand has to do all the work. And make sure when you do this that you're not doing any unnecessary movement with your hand. Like for instance, if I go 4 to 1, don't let your hand do all the motion. Let your finger at the joint right here do the motion. Get a good snap out of it. So I'm going to do this one slow, and then I'm going to do it with the metronome. Here it is a little bit faster. Okay, so I just did various rhythmic groupings with that exercise, but I would suggest starting very, very slow on one string. Do it for a repeated amount of times, going to the next one, and so forth and so on. We're not so concerned with moving across strings at this point. We just want to get our left hand warmed up, and then we can add the picking, and then we can start doing plenty of stuff across strings. But if the left hand doesn't have its fingering down, everything else is going to fall apart. All right, next warm-up exercise we're going to do is going to be a 3-finger pattern, and it's going to basically be all the 3-finger patterns. They're going to be ascending and descending, and this will help you play various scales in different positions. And again, we're going to start at the 9th fret, and I'm going to pick every note. And here it is. First pattern, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 4. 1, 3, 4. And 2, 3, 4. And that's the one nobody really likes. And here it is all together. Okay, now we're going to do this now in reverse. And the way we're going to do that is going to be 3, 2, 1. 4, 2, 1. 4, 3, 1. And 4, 3, 2. Again, no one likes that one either. So here it is in reverse. All right, now we're going to put them back and forth to the backing track. Click track. And just like before, we want to do them on all the strings, and we're going to do them slurred as well. So I'm going to play this one now, same tempo, slurred. And here it is using 8 notes. can go to triplets on this one. So again, when you're doing this, make sure that you're not jumping with your hand. And by utilizing all these motions here, it will probably tempt you to keep your tempo down so you're not just working the motion that you're good at. This gets you to kind of suck it up and do all the motions with all the fingers. So it's a great warm-up, and I find it's working very well for me. All right, now we're going to take those 3-finger patterns that we've just done, and we're going to do it in a forward and backward way. So it kind of represents playing a scale back and forth on one string. Very, very useful. Once again, 9th fret, high E string. Instead of 1, 2, 3, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 2. And now 1, 2, 4, 2. 1, 3, 4, 3. And 2, 3, 4, 3. All together. And now the reverse pattern. Since we ended on the 3rd finger, we're going to start this one on the pinky. 4, 3, 2, 3. 4, 3, 1, 3. 4, 2, 1, 2. And 3, 2, 1, 2. So this time the easiest one comes last. So here it is in reverse. And now we're going to put it together back and forward, picked with the metronome. And once again, we'll slur it. This time right up to tempo. Now you notice when I played that, I had a little bit of a noise in there from my hand, a little bit of a mistake, but what you want to make sure when you do these things is your right hand is covering the strings you're not using. Therefore, you don't get this hum of noise coming out. So as we do different strings, the right hand needs to always be on the lower strings you're not using. And when I go to say like the B string, my left hand is going to take care of muting the next string, the higher string, the E string. Now if I were to go straight up and down like this, you hear the residual noise, it's no good. So get used to having your finger bent down a little bit, always covering the string above it, and muting out the noise that you're going to have. Okay, I'm going to show you one more variation for this back and forth exercise, and this is actually going to help you do a pivoting or pedaling technique. And this one's going to be using the same kind of fingering, but this time repeating the outer finger. So it's going to be 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 4, 1, 4, 3, 4, and 2, 4, 3, 4. Here it is together, picked. 8th fret this time. And now reverse, it's going to be 3, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 4, 1, 4, 3, 4, 1, and the hardest one for me anyway, 4, 3, 4, 2. So I'll play this one all together with the metronome. Now 8 notes. And now slurred. So if that isn't enough chromatic exercises for you, then go somewhere else. But there you go.